guys, welcome to 𝘄𝘄𝘄𝘆 podcast. Today we are going to be doing an episode for SA Awareness Month, and it's going to be coming from your very own CSA Survivor me. So I'm going to be sharing you some tips and tricks on how to navigate being a supportive person to anybody that you might know that has experienced SA before, okay? I'm going to be sharing only like my experiences and what I appreciate and what helps me. So it's not for every single survivor out there. People may feel different. They may not agree, but based off of my own experiences, this is what I appreciate and what I don't appreciate. I think that it is very important to be aware of how you can support other victims or your peers, your friends, your family in this kind of area, because it does happen and sometimes we don't know how to navigate and then we just kind of keep quiet about it. But actually, survivors, when they come out or when they are going through it, depending on where they are in their stage, they actually appreciate you saying something showing that you care. So I'm going to tell you guys all of the do's and don'ts, okay? Some do's that I have written down for you guys is check in, because they can always be on their journey. As a CSA survivor, I'm constantly doing things to heal my trauma, to overcome certain barriers that I have to go through that a normal person wouldn't have to go through. And it may be just like setting boundaries with certain people, or going and reliving certain traumas, or overcoming certain feelings. Like, it is a constant battle that survivors have to go through to heal. And so it doesn't hurt if you reach out a few times and just say, hey, how are you? How are you on your healing journey? Is there anything I could do to support you? I think that it's very helpful, and that it can make them feel like they are not fighting this battle alone. So that is something that you could do. Another thing is understand that it can be harder for them to navigate sometimes. They can have PTSD, anxiety, and other disorders from the trauma. This one, you have to have a lot of empathy, and you have to really understand that the person who has experienced the trauma will not always show up for you in the ways that you want. And no matter how loving or caring or kind they are, there will be moments, and this is not for everybody, okay? This is just me too. There will be moments where it will be harder for them to show up, and you just have to understand that it is not a personal thing. Like, it's not because they don't love you. It's not because they don't care. They really are trying their best and the hardest that they are to show up for you and to be there for you. But it can be very hard on them, where it can be like they don't know how to navigate the hard emotions right now, or they need space and time, or they have reached their max capacity of being social or being around people or tolerating certain environments. So it is not personal. It's just they have harder times because of the trauma that they have experienced. And it's not fair to say that because of my trauma that I'm not going to show up for you. I think if somebody continuously has a pattern of not showing up for you, and if you don't like that you're always showing up for them and they never show up for you, then maybe they aren't for you, and maybe give them space to heal and see if you guys can mend that relationship later. But I'm saying, if there are moments where survivors are just checked out and they communicate with you that they can't show up, or that they can't do a certain thing, or they have to check out and be like, hey, I'm gonna go, then you kind of just have to know that it's harder for them, and they don't want to take away and ruin the whole moment, but it is because they feel the anxiety, the symptoms that they feel. It's not easy on both ends. I get it. I would assume that if you were in the same situation, then you would want some compassion from your peers or people around you as well. Other things that you can do to support survivors is share how it makes you feel. Share your feelings with the survivor. For example, like when I came out, I appreciated when some people reached out to me and say, hey, I'm sorry for what happened. I hope that you know that I'm here for you and that what happened to you was unfortunate. Like, even the simplest things like that can actually make a survivor feel like people are there and they see them, and that they aren't just talking to nobody. When you show that you are concerned or that you care, it can go a very long way for survivors. It can also help to make them feel more connected. It's really nice to feel that from people. Now we're going to go into the don'ts, because the don'ts is going to tie into this do, right? I would say that when you are trying to talk to survivors or share your feelings with the survivor, that you don't show it in a way where it's like you pity them, because it takes a lot of strength for survivors to actually come out or to live what they're living through. And for you to say things in a certain way that makes them feel like they are weak, it can cause a lot of like discomfort, or it can really target or shatter everything that they've worked so hard for. So be very mindful about how you want to execute that you care. If you want to know more, you could reach out to me and I could tell you how to say it that I would prefer. But right now, I can't think of any from the top of my head of what I would appreciate and not appreciate if you said it in this certain way. Another don't is don't ask too many questions in an interrogating way. Educating yourself is perfectly fine, but if you start asking questions that obviously they are not ready to share, you are just doing it for yourself now. And it is actually quite obvious to survivors that you are just going to take the information and go and gossip. For you to show up like that, you are not a safe space for me, and I don't want a relationship with you. I also think that it's not your right to ask the victim questions that are too extreme. For example, when I was coming out about being a CSA survivor, there was a person who had asked me to like share who that person was in like a very passive way so that it could help other survivors or it could help other people. I get where you're coming from at the same time, but it's not your right to go and ask a survivor these kind of things or force them when they are not ready. And obviously, you are not close enough to them for them to even have this discussion with you. So when it's things like that, it is not okay for you to do. So do not approach or do not support your survivors in this kind of way, okay? It is okay if you are trying to educate yourself. Like, let's say I shared with you guys about my scar tissue, and you're like, hey, what kind of scar tissue was it, if you don't mind me asking, just so that I could educate myself on what to be aware of. Like that for me, because I've already shared with you guys what that is, I'm okay with sharing with you guys the details if you come and ask me this specific question. But if it's something that a survivor has not shared, then it's not okay for you to go and interrogate them or ask them these kind of things. So there was a lot of things in that I already just covered. Don't ask too many questions. Don't pressure them to share things that they clearly are not ready to share. And don't tell them what to do or what's best for them. And this part where, don't tell them what to do or what's best for them, everybody is on their own healing journey. And I had to learn this along the way too as a victim, because I went on such a big high that I thought that this was it for everybody. Like everybody can heal as long as they do what I'm doing. But I later learned that everybody has their own time frame, and this isn't for everybody, and that some people are not ready yet to accept this. And I needed to realize and reflect that I need to take a step back and realize that I used to be in their shoes, so I can't be saying, hey, forgiveness, like maybe you should forgive them. I still bring up the suggestion of that, yeah, I found forgiveness and this is what I did, but I now don't go and say, maybe you should forgive them and maybe you should do this and that, because it's not right to do. I myself, as a CSA survivor, had to learn not to do that because, again, I went through that high and I thought that this was the healing journey and that this is what you needed to do in order to heal. Another thing for me personally, it doesn't matter when the outside world is mad at me, but it matters when the people that I know or that are close to me are mad at me. To go into it is when a survivor comes out or when you hear of this happening to somebody that you know, don't respond with anger in a way that makes the victim feel like you are mad at them. It's different to execute your feelings in a way that you were mad about the situation happening or that had happened to the victim. But if you respond in a way where you start interrogating the victim of why did you go to the party then, or why did you drink, or why did you put yourself there, or why did you never ever tell anybody, then it starts to become where you are not supporting this survivor anymore. Just respond in a way where you aren't blaming them for what happened, and that you are here for them and you see them and you are sorry for what happened. That can go a very long way. That is about everything that I have for do's and don'ts. I think if I sit here and think about all of the things, then of course I can come up with probably a whole book of specific details in certain events. But the generic of the things that came to my mind of do's and don'ts are these. And those are things to support your peers or friends or family when things like this happen to them. It sucks to have to do a video of sharing with you guys on what to do and what not to do to victims of assault. But it does happen, and sometimes we don't know how to navigate it. And it is because we're not really taught how to navigate these kind of things. And so then we don't respond, or we just keep quiet, or we support them from afar and we just let them continue their journey. But actually, you supporting in a more connected way will actually help survivors feel more purposeful and feel more uplifted and feel more connected to being here in this world. So yeah, boss, I hope that you found this episode very helpful. If you have ever felt stuck on how to support your peers, I hope that this episode helped you with being more aware as we honor Sexual Awareness Month. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. And as always, stay being the bad boss that you are. Bye.